It is Wednesday, the 29th of November, 2023. Just one more day and then we'll be done with November and welcome the very last month of the year 2023. It's good to have you today on the Mid-Morning Park. Of course, it is Wednesday and it is Wednesday Leadership. All matters pertaining to leadership and everything in between. And we are glad that you found time to watch us. We are also hopeful that you are doing well. You are having a blessed day wherever you are. My name is Mangicho Mola. And of course, on the other side, I'm joined by Paul Kagi. Good to see you. Karibu sana.
Hello, good morning. And how is your day taking you so far?
I'm also fine. Good to have you. I'm also hoping that you're having a great week.
Right. Good morning. Welcome to the Mid-Morning Park once again. Today is the Leadership Wednesday. And welcome to this program as we give you a perspective on the current affairs program. My name is once again Paul Kagi. Welcome about.
Very well, and of course in a short while we'll be getting into the general analysis of events and different developments taking place in the country across this 1 week. Quite a lot of things happening, and of course with my colleague Kagi we'll be able to look into some of these very, very important and pertinent subjects happening and taking part in the country. But we want to introduce the topic that we'll be having today, and it's very interesting because it's all about careers, but we'll be looking at women in building and construction. Women in building and construction, that is the area of our focus today. Of course, there has been perception that there are those careers that are male-dominated. There are those careers that maybe quite a number of people perceive to be male or to actually be the domain of men. But then some of these careers, we have ladies or we have women who have already immerse themselves in these careers, and they are doing very well. So we want to see, even as we continue, even as the world continues to evolve, what are some of the dynamics that you need to be aware of, that you need to put into consideration, even as matters careers is important. And of course, this is important in relation to leadership. We'll be having an interview, and we have a guest who is a woman doing very well in matters building and construction. And of course, we'll have an interview that we recorded earlier, and we'll be able to listen to some of the perspectives that she'll be in a position to tell us later on in this particular program. And as always, we want to give you an opportunity to make this particular conversation and this particular interview as interactive as possible. We also want to get your views, want to get your opinions, want to get your input on what we are discussing today. So we have a question that we have put out for you so that we can also get your perspective. We are asking, what challenges face women who are involved in perceived male-dominated careers? What are some of the challenges that face women who are perceived or who are involved in perceived male-dominated careers? Now, you know the drill. You can begin to share with us your thoughts on this very fundamental subject. 23814 for our short code platform. And of course, you can catch us live on our social media pages. We are live on Facebook, that is MBCI TV. And on YouTube, you can catch us live on our YouTube page, that is MBCI TV Official. Later on, we'll be able to see what are some of your perspectives on this important area of our discussion in the Mid-Morning Park. Meanwhile, Paul Kagi, and of course, like I said, we'll have a guest, and that is Madam Rahab Wangoi. She's the director Ultimate Home Finishes and also an expert in matters building and construction. So we'll have her in a few minutes, and of course it will really help us, or it will really, the conversation, that interview will really help us to shed light on this very important subject. But meanwhile, Paul Kagi, quite a number of issues taking place in the country, making headlines, especially in the corridors of the court.
Yes, there are a series of activities. For the last 3 days, we have experienced a lot of activities whereby court has really annulled some of the proposals made by the government. And one of the one which has really caught the attention of many Kenyans was by the High Court of Nairobi declaring the house levy to be illegal and constitutional yesterday through the 3 judges bench, which ruled yesterday, although after some few hours, the government tried to come back to the court and tried to maybe ask if they can be allowed to stay the ruling and continue collecting the levy as they put their house in order regarding to the tax levy. But Kenyans really celebrated a lot yesterday as they were looking at this matter, Mangichu.
Yes.
And I believe by yesterday evening, again the confusion came, whereby the court said it has given the government 45 days to continue collecting the levy as the government prepares maybe to appeal against the ruling by the 3-judge bench yesterday.
Okay.
And we believe that at the end of the day, whether it is through the Court of Appeal or through the High Court, through the Supreme Court, that we are going to have a conclusion at the end of this matter. So by today, I believe the only persons who Kenyans are relying on to be able to bring to an end of this matter is Supreme Court. Yeah.
Kagi, that is a very pertinent area, and that ruling, just like you've said, it was bound to be welcomed by so many Kenyans. Of course, we've been in this particular sector, and of course, we know, especially for us who are in the media, this particular step or this particular action, this particular measure that was taken by the government and actually put in the finance bill and subsequently passed into law was unwelcome by most Kenyans who actually felt aggrieved. They actually felt that the government was really going now to make life tougher for them, especially during these very unbecoming economic times. And of course, now that this particular court made that ruling yesterday, of course, it really points to some of the missing links, to some of the gaps that maybe were in this particular finance bill, which was now passed into law. Because the argument was that it is discriminatory for the government to actually say, or to actually just come up with a policy and come up with a directive that those who are salaried employees, they should actually be taxed, and also to be made now to maybe pay for those maybe who are not salaried. So some of the arguments that have been there is that what will happen now to those maybe who are also doing very well in terms of business, maybe in terms of other areas, why is it that the same directive is not really going to be made to also be in a position to also find out how is it that they can also be affected, or they can also be involved. So the argument in the court, and I think that is why the court came up with this particular ruling, is that it seems it is discriminatory. Yes. And of course, if the government will not continue, or it will not take that step of appealing this particular ruling maybe in the Court of Appeal, then it basically means that it will be declared null and void.
Yes, and two things that made the judges to declare it unconstitutional, majorly two. One is that there is the discriminating between the informal and formal sector, whereby the only people who are being taxed regarding to house levy are those who are in the formal sector, but those who are in informal sector are not taxed. And therefore, the way court is saying, according to my own interpretation, is that everybody, if we need to have this house levy, then everybody must be brought on board. Whether you are in formal or informal sector, you must be brought on board to have a fair playing ground. The question lingers again, Magicho, is how are we going to incorporate the informal sector in the house levy? It is quite challenging to be able to declare how much are you going to pay if you're working in Juakali sector, if you are a Mamamboga, if you are, who else? Mamamboga and Boda Boda. How much are you going to pay this levy? I think that is where the huge task is. Number two, according to the LSK, the Law Society of Kenya, they felt again that there's no good formulation of how these houses are going to be built, okay? And according to the chair, the Urin, he was feeling that the government has not come up with a better formula to tell Kenyans, yes, you have paid your levy, but this is how you are going to receive your house. And therefore they feel there is no good and legal open framework on how you're going to get your house and when. All those questions are the ones that informed the judges to be
and
able
of course, I'm also being reminded that it's also the aspect, Kagi, of maybe it was not properly defined, it was not properly brought out so that maybe Kenyans can be in a position to understand who is supposed or who is entitled to own these houses that are actually going to be built by the government. So there are those maybe who are feeling that, yes, I'm being forced, I'm being compelled, I'm being asked or actually even required to pay. But then how sure? What are some of the assurance that have been put into place for me to actually be in a position to know that I'm really going to benefit from this particular house? But you remember again, and I think we had this discussion, Kagi, in this particular program, whereby we also talked about the issue of most Kenyans really wondering whether they are really going to benefit, especially in regard to time, because it is like by the time one contributes to the amount that they are supposed to contribute to actually now be in a position or to qualify to own some of these houses, most Kenyans really believe they'll have really have gone or be advanced in terms of age, therefore maybe leaving very little time for them to actually be sure. And I think these are some of the areas that it is important for the government to come out clear so that most Kenyans can actually be in a position to understand or actually even to know what is it that is supposed to be done.
And finally, on a lighter note, yesterday when the court declared this ruling, they saw Christmas coming up early because they started demanding, if the ruling says that this house levy is illegal, then we should get back our money. And people are counting thousands of money, and Christmas is coming up early. I don't know whether if it goes that way, if the government can be able to refund this money.
Yeah, I think that is also an area that we will be able to wait and see and find out what is really going to happen. Now, when a competent court, Kagi, like the High Court, makes a decision like that one, I don't know, maybe later on we'll be having lawyers to discuss with us and maybe even be in a position to help us understand. Because you look at some of the factors that maybe they have brought out, the factors that they have put forward for argument. What are the chances that the Court of Appeal will stand by this particular ruling of the High Court? What are some of the chances that the Court of Appeal will actually maybe look at this particular subject contrary or differently from how the High Court has actually looked into? So it basically means that if the Court of Appeal will stand by what the High Court has actually given or the High Court has actually ruled, then we have very, very minimal chances of the government maybe winning in this particular subject.
Yes, and one of the things that I could identify yesterday that was very new to me in court was whereby the three judges, that is Christine Meoli, David Majanja, Lawrence Mugambi, could declare these orders, or this judgment, sorry, to be able to declare the house levy illegal, but after some few hours, the same court comes again and declares some orders to stay the same ruling they had done up to 45 days. So I didn't understand how the same court could make a ruling, then after a few hours, the same court come again and declare some orders over the same ruling. Maybe in the next subsequent weeks when you're having some lawyers around, they are going to give us more light on this matter. Exactly.
I totally agree with you, Kagi, and also even the aspect that maybe also some of the Kenyans have also been wondering is about maybe when you are in a particular town or maybe you are in a particular region and maybe for one reason or another, maybe you are required maybe to move or to be transferred and be in another town or maybe in another city. How will it go? So quite a number of issues that really needs to be put into place.
And again, when we remain in the corridors of justice, we have one more issue, which was a very big blow to the KK government, whereby the High Court halted implementation of the new health plan, SHIF, to replace what we call the NHIF. We know that the NHIF is being phased out, and what is coming new is the SHIF. And I was looking at the print this morning, and one of the things that I was seeing here is that it's official. All Kenyans will pay 2.75% to new medical scheme. Okay? So out of your gross salary again, we expect if this scheme is okayed by the parliament, then 2.7% more of your salary will go to SHIF.
Yes.
It was launched by the CS for Health, Susan, I think 2 days ago, whereby he also says they are members of the NHIF, the employees, some of the employees of NHIF are not guaranteed for continue to get employment. But the petitioner had argued that it's illegal for government to deny Kenyans services if not registered in the fund. That means if you're not registered in this fund, there's probability that you won't get services from government health of institutions. And therefore, again, we wait to see if the minister is going to appeal against the ruling by the court yesterday.
Absolutely. That is also a blow, Kagi, remembering that this particular petitioner actually took this particular case to court, arguing that it is illegal to deny Kenyan services for failing to register, because what is required in this particular fund, or in this particular system, in this particular plan, is that all Kenyans are actually supposed to register for this particular initiative. So the argument is that it is not legal, it is not practical for one to actually compel all Kenyans, and actually even maybe not every Kenyan can be in a position to also maybe pay for the fee that maybe everyone will be required actually to pay, so that they can actually be in a position to get this particular service. So again, we are expecting another push and forth as far as this particular subject is concerned in the court. Quite a very, very tough week for the government and the judiciary.
Yes, now we can look at the education matters.
Maybe Kagi, just before education, because there is also one more area that has also maybe come very, very strongly, and that is to do with the privatization of some of government parastatals.
Correct.
And this one has actually also been received with a lot of criticism. Remember, some of these government parastatals that have actually benefited Kenyans for a very long time. Talk about KICC, talk about Kenya Meat Commission, talk about Kenya Ports Authority,
Kenya Pipeline Company.
Kenya Pipeline Company. This is something that really many Kenyans are wondering whether the government's move to privatize some of these parastatals, some of these organizations, will actually be for the good of the country, or maybe just for the self-interest of a few. So again, the court has also put a hold on this.
And therefore, the opposition yesterday really gave its position on this matter, and they have declared that they are not for plans to sell critical parastatals. And we know there was a bill in Parliament whereby, not even the bill, the cabinet approved they can be able to okay the privatizing of the companies without going through the parliament. And therefore, I think this is where the plan started, whereby the government was looking for a way to be able to quickly maybe identify a critical parastatal which can be able to give resources and also sell. One of the things the government is saying regarding to the selling of these parastatals is, one, that the exchequer is really funding the operations of many parastatals. And most of these parastatals are not bringing any income either to the government or even funding its own operations. They are waiting, they are really holding fully to be funded by the government in its operating, okay? And therefore, I believe if the government is complaining about some colleges, some universities, public universities, the government has plans to be able to sell them over, because it's saying they are using billions of money to be able to fund the activities of these parastatals, yet they can be able to maybe plan on how to get some income and run its activities.
Exactly, Kagi. And what you're saying is actually what maybe most people have been coming up with a lot of other thoughts and maybe other opinions, because some people are of the opinion that if the government is arguing that maybe it is accruing a lot of debts, or actually maybe it is going through a lot in terms of financing or in terms of actually looking into the management of some of these parastatals. Some people are asking, what would be the right decision? What would be the most prudent step to take? Is it to privatize these institutions, or to actually look into how is it that some of these public institutions can actually get great managers, good managers, who can actually turn them to be as significant as possible in terms of actually benefiting Kenyans? Because one wonders, when they are privatized, would Kenyans really benefit from these institutions just the way they are benefiting when they are now managed by the government? And therefore, that is a major question that people have been asking. So if it is a question of management, if it is a question of the government thinking that maybe these institutions are not bringing profit, maybe they are not bringing money, so what should be the right decision? Why can't we have good managers being put there? And I believe that we have learned Kenyans, Kagi, in different spheres, economy, finances, management, and so on and so forth. Why can't we see what is it that maybe can be done to ensure that we put the right people there and let them be in a position to know, let them be told what is it that is required of some of these public institutions? Because again, when they are privatized, it basically means it is the individual, the owner, who now has the right to do whatever they want to do with these institutions, and therefore maybe the public will actually be they'll be denied maybe the opportunity to benefit from them. And
this reminds me of during Moi's era, the KICC was owned and run by KANU. You remember? It was managed by KANU. It was a KANU office. And when Kibaki came in power, I think he really helped to be able to get back KICC, because he was saying that KICC was owned by government before. And therefore, when Kibaki came, he used what we call the executive order to be able to bring back KICC to the government. And since Moi's time, KICC is run by government. By the government, sure. Now we have a plan to sell KICC to a private investor. To a private investor. So asking, how much does it owe to sell KICC? And who is going to manage that? But one of the corporations that I think I'm concerned with is the Kenya Pipeline. Is it Kenya Pipeline? Kenya Pipeline Company, KPC. Yes. You know, I'm wondering, KPC is where all our oil goes through. Sure. Even in our East African Corporation. But how comes they don't have money to be able to operate? Exactly. It's a big question. Yes, exactly. I think, Kagi, those are very important issues that really need to be done. I know we really are pressed for time, but maybe before we take a break, Kagi, quite a lot also happened in the education sector with the announcement of the KCPE results. Yes. And huge public outcry on what really happened, and people are wondering, what is it? Is it that the systems failed or NEC failed? And many people asking one question, what was the hurry? Yes. By the way, to announce the KCPE results at that speed? You know, we are prepared, we are wired to waiting after Christmas. You know, in some other countries, in some other democracies, when something like this happens, people should have gone home. Heads should have begun to roll. It's quite amazing that such a huge disaster has happened and people are sitting pretty in their offices. They are just stamping as if nothing happened. But today they are being summoned. Yeah, today the CS for Education, Machogu, and the NEC CEO. Would we really have seen things like this during the era of Matiang'i? No. During the era of Magoha? It's not possible. It's not possible. I think even last year we had issues with some irregularities in the KCSE examinations, and the same officials in the ministry were being summoned because of the huge irregularities in the examinations, the KCSE. But now, I don't understand how KCPE is not a magnitude exam. We expect such kind of errors to be very minimal. It should be very minimal. Very minimal. One of the things that we saw is some marks, or some students were given same marks. Same marks, sure.
Sure.
For example, maybe come is maths. You can get some 75% to every student has 75%.
It happened in a school in Isiolo.
In Isiolo.
Yeah, something that has never been. You cannot actually, even if maybe you are reasoning at the same, maybe you are in the same class, the same teacher, maybe even the kind of revision you're doing are the same, but actually just getting the same marks, more than 20 students.
For one subject.
And more than 20 pupils.
Another major error was, for example, a student could get 75 marks and be graded as A.
Right.
The same marks, another student is graded as B minus. How is that?
That is quite terrible.
If 75 is A, it should be A to everybody.
Sure.
If it is B minus, should be B minus to everybody. So the National Assembly Committee on Education, chaired by Julius Meli, they need to understand where these errors came from.
Yes.
But everybody could suspect when the examination was being released, we could not get results immediately as it used to be.
Okay, as it used to be.
It could not happen, and everybody was told wait until 2 p.m.
Okay, okay.
You could see there's something.
So even when people were sending the SMSs, there was no reply that was coming.
Yeah.
As people maybe used to. So I think that was quite unfortunate because, like you've said, Kagi, I don't think there was that big hurry to bring out these results without maybe scrutinizing them. I was actually even asking myself, what is the process, what is the procedure like of scrutinizing some of these particular results? Because exam is a very sensitive issue. This is someone's life. I actually had one of the lawyers defending the parents and the pupils, the students that were affected, Lawyer Dunstan Omari. He was actually equating this particular disaster with the effects of World War I and World War II. World War II. But I can feel, I can identify with the weight of this particular matter, because this is something that people has actually been doing, investing 8 years, so that at least you can have results that can now make you to get into the other stage in your life. Only maybe for some people somewhere to come and do something or do some injustice to them.
As you are sitting here today, the placement is ongoing for the next 2 weeks, but someone went to court yesterday.
Yeah, someone went to suspend.
The placement of students in high school.
I don't know what the court said about this. Because I totally believe these students must get their justice. They must get their justice because it is their life. So they have every reason, actually.
And the worst scenario I'm really very scared about is whereby somebody can go to court and to declare the audit of the marking of these examinations.
Yes.
That is the worst.
The entire exercise.
Yes, it can happen. Someone goes to court and files a petition and order from the court for the audit of the marking of KCP results. Is going to take even another 1 month.
Yeah.
It's going to affect the placement of our people.
Exactly. And it's also very unfortunate that it is coming when most Kenyans were actually looking forward to get the results and to get this particular feedback, this particular KCP being the very last in this particular generation.
But the idea was good, to be able to allow parents to prepare for the Form 1s early enough. But I think something went wrong somewhere, and we need to know it from today through the Ministry of Education and NEC officials as I go to the National Assembly Committee on Education.
Sure.
And we hope even for the KCSE, they are going to be more careful than even before.
Yes.
Right.
Maybe one more thing before we take a short break, Kagi. The issue to do with the Boma stocks, okay, the committee and the Delaware committee, of course, they presented their report, they presented their recommendation, but it seems we still do not have the white smoke.
Yes. the president on his side is okay with the report.
Yes.
But opposition by yesterday's sentiments by the Raila and Kalonzo.
Members of the opposition, it's they're meeting today.
To be able to
so we are expecting that
the report.
Yeah. We're expecting now to hear what they are actually going to tell us. My director is telling me we can take a short break. You're still watching the Mid-Morning Park. It is Wednesday Leadership. You're talking about women in building and construction. Now when you come back, we have a Vox Pop from a report on what people think, on what Kenyans think about women in building and construction. And later on, that interview with Rahab Wangoi, the director, Altismart Home Finishes. Don't go far away.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
At
The pinnacle of education is High Peak Schools, a reputable institution for anyone looking to unlock their child's full potential. From early childhood education to our junior school, our experienced educators impact students with relevant knowledge and skills for them to soar high. From well-equipped classes to modern laboratories, peaceful dormitories, computer room, and a music room. Students partake in co-curricular activities like swimming, skating, and many more. Our nutritious diets are sourced from our school farms, and not forgetting purified water that is safe for consumption. We have a fleet of buses that are accessible to our students for comfortable transportation to and from school. To enroll your child, contact us through 0728 040 883. High Peak Schools, quest for excellence.
Get ready for the most electrifying gospel event of the year, Praise Atmosphere 2023, on the 9th of December at Sitam Karen, Nairobi, from 2 p.m. onward, featuring Evelyn Wanjiru, Prosper Ochimana from Nigeria, Rehema Simfukwe from Tanzania, Edith Wairimo, Celestine Donkor from Ghana, Wilberforce Musyoka, Solomon Mukubwa, Kestin Bogo, and Sharon Ishavuka from Kenya. Regular tickets are available for just 1,000 shillings, 2,000 shillings at the gate, and for the children 3 to 12 years, it's only 500 shillings. VIP and VVIP tickets are also available. Visit www.praiseatmosphere.com/events or use paybill number 800-8575, account Praise. Praise Atmosphere 2023, uniting hearts in worship.
As the year comes to a close, the Kamkunji business community invites you to join us for a day of gratitude and reflection. On Friday, December 1st, 2023 at 9 a.m., come and be part of the Kamkunji business community annual Thanksgiving Prayer Day. Our theme for this year's Thanksgiving Prayer Day is "It is God who arms me with strength and makes my way perfect," inspired by 2 Samuel 22 verses 23. We are honored to welcome Apostle John Keman William from Kingdom Seekers Fellowship Nakuru as our special guest speaker.
Your worship will manifest your greatness.
Join us as we come together in unity, expressing our gratitude for the blessings we have received throughout the year. Don't miss this opportunity to connect with your community, uplift your spirit, and give thanks.
You cannot rise in this life if you are not a worshiper.
Kamkunji Business Community Annual Thanksgiving Prayer Day on Friday, December 1st, 2023 at 9 a.m. Kamkunji, Nairobi, next to police station.
Rema Missionary Outreach International welcomes you to this year's annual prayer conference themed Church Awakening from Jonah 1 verse 6. It's happening from the 3rd to the 10th December 2023 at the Whispers Park ground in Nyeri. Join us for a wonderful time of refreshing with our esteemed guest speaker, Bishop Likavo.
If they did not show me the way, I would not be a Christian today.
Pastor Mark Daniels.
You do have the Lord, so stand firm.
Apostle David Juma.
God likes to use failures that he can show forth his glory.
The host, Apostle Andrew.
The Lord is refining us until we look like him.
And prophetess Wininganga.
When God calls you to wake up, it is always a season of restoration and comeback.
Sessions will begin on Sunday 3rd December at 2 p.m. And from Monday to Saturday morning, devotion starts from 5 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. with sessions running from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. On Sunday the 10th of December, join us for an interdenominational rally at 2 p.m. For more information, call us on 0726 022 558.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Welcome back to the Mid-Morning Park Wednesday Leadership. You're watching us right here on MBCI TV. Many thanks for making time to be with us. And of course, if you're joining us for the very first time, you're already introduced our topic for today. That is women in building and construction. We have an interview with a guest that we had interviewed earlier on. And she is Madam Rahab Wangoi. She is the director, Ultimate Home Finishes, and also an experienced and an expert in matters building and construction. You'll want to find out from her her thoughts and opinions as far as women in building and construction is concerned. You can look forward for that very captivating discussion that we had with Rahab in a short while. Of course, we also have interviews, or what we normally call vox pops, from our reporter with Kenyans, and also getting their opinions, their thoughts on these crucial subjects. But Kagi, my director, is telling me we can have a few minutes just maybe to conclude on a number of issues that we are actually talking about. Of course, very pertinent.
Yes.
In the country, and of course the issue of the dialogue that was in Bomas is very important, because again this is coming at a time when most Kenyans are actually expecting that out of these particular talks there are things that we'll be able to see becoming better, things that will actually be in a position to see they have actually been improved in terms maybe of the welfare of Kenyans, the cohesion of Kenyans. But one thing that came out very strongly, and which the opposition side wanted, is the issue to do with the cost of living. And apparently, listening to Martha Karua of NAC Kenya and also Eugene Omalwa of DAP, it's like this particular issue was not handled the way they expected.
Right.
Failure to which, or maybe, and that is actually the reason why they are saying they're not really going to support this particular report. So it might actually make maybe things not to be very smooth, or not maybe to be very promising. Yeah.
And everybody would ask him or herself one question. Of course, we know that why has the cost of living become a thorn in flesh in the talks? And the KK side really could not be able to come up with a formula. You know, they met the CS for finance, the Treasury CS, I think 2 times, to be able to unlock the situation. How do we lower the cost of living?
Sure.
And the CS for Treasury could not come have a solution over that. And therefore, one of the things the Azimio side were categorical is to remove the fuel levy from 16% or reduce from 16% to 8%, and also other effects like the Finance Bill 2023.
Right.
That one, it has a direct ripple on the cost of living.
Sure.
In fact, negative. And therefore, I think the two sides, because we all agree, all of us, whether in the government side or opposition, that the cost of living has skyrocketed.
Sure.
And we need to come up with a solution on how to help Kenyans to, at least to have a breath over the cost of living.
Sure.
But the question still remains, why are they not agreeing on ways of bringing the cost of living down?
Exactly.
And formulas are there. Because everybody is crying. And the worst situation again could be if Azimio, as the Raila was hinting yesterday, they have an option of going back to the streets.
Exactly. Yeah, I've actually even seen that on the papers. Raila hints at a return of protest, and I think this is not really what we would really want. We wouldn't really want to reach this particular point. We know the effects, we know the consequences of some of these protests and the way they really just mess almost everything in the country, even in terms of losing lives, losing property, hurting businesses, and so on and so forth. So I think that there is a very significant need for the two leaders to actually look into this matter with a lot of weight, so that at least we can give Kenyans direction.
It's not the first time, Angicho, where Kenyans are coming together to have a conversation on the issues affecting our nation and our people.
Sure.
Every time we have an election, we have some challenges, maybe because of the differences between the outcome. We come together and look for a solution on our challenges. You could remember the Kofi Annan talks because of the Kibaki and Raila differences. And one thing that Annan did, which was very key, when he found that those people who were in that committee or in those talks, the government and opposition side, there were hardliners in those talks. And he saw these hardliners, the way I'm seeing, we are not going to break any stalemate here. You know what he did?
Yes.
He went direct in person.
Yes.
And brought Kibaki and Raila together in one sitting.
Yes.
And the stalemate was broken and truce was agreed. Even right now, if we need to come up with a solution, Raila and Ruto should make their own decisions, because the committee has done its job. That's the far they could go. What is remaining now, I believe it is between the president and the opposition leader to give us a direction on the cost of living.
Exactly.
Yeah, particularly the president.
Yeah, it reminds me the quote from former Vice President, the late Professor George Saitoti.
Yes.
There comes a time when the nation is more important than an individual.
Yes.
So there's a time now for the two leaders to put the interests of Kenya well beyond any other person's interest. The hardliners, they have their interest. Some of these politicians, they have their interest. Some of these other individuals, maybe in these particular areas, they also have their interest. But what is the interest of Wanjiku? What is the interest of Atieno? This is what the two leaders need to look into. And they'll actually, history will judge them very harshly
and the good thing
at a time like this.
Is that the voice of Wanjiku, whether in the opposition or government side, is very clear. It's hard. Whether he supported government or not, the voice is very clear. The cost of living is really pressing everybody hard.
Exactly.
All right?
Yes, Kagi. And I think maybe finally, so that we can get into the vox pops pertaining to our subject of discussion, we are also disappointed. We are also very sad as a nation because of the effects of the El Nino and how it has ravaged quite a number of areas in the country. I'm seeing in the papers around 120 people have lost their lives. 89,000 people have been displaced by floods. It's quite a very, very disappointing scenario, Kagi, putting into consideration that the weatherman had actually notified the country, all the stakeholders, or the government machineries well in advance. The notice was given. This is not something that we can actually say that it has caught us by surprise, but yet we've lost 120.
And what we are doing right now, we are handling the issue of floods as an emergency in our country.
Sure.
Yesterday, I can see the state set up flood emergency center to manage crisis. As when the situation is out of hand, is when we are running to come up with an emergency center or program to be able to rescue situation. The DP is blaming those people who don't understand the terrains of floods. You see, he's just telling Kenyans, you have to understand how rivers, banks explode. I think that is where now
it might look funny, but then it is quite it's actually serious. It's actually serious as a country, Kagi, because we cannot even afford to lose even one life. We cannot even afford. It is not even justifiable to lose one life, especially on a matter like this.
And one thing, Mangicho, I think really troubles me mostly, when the government officials tell people that those who are living on flood-prone areas should shift to a safer place in the hills and mountains. So my question still lingers in my mind. Where is this place people are being told to go?
Exactly.
It is not the...
How do they go?
How do they go?
Where
it's
do
now
they start from?
The government's plan to organize on how people are going to move from here to there for their security. Provide housing, provide water, provide medication, right? If you look at some countries, like when some Europe countries had what was it called, their own disasters and calamities, and they gave an early warning, they prepare prior to the disaster. where they are going to take their people. They pick them, they take them by buses, by planes to a safer area, and they give them food, water, and shelter.
Yeah, because even the government can actually even say very well, and it can actually know very well that these are the areas that are going to be affected.
Yes.
So it can pinpoint to those areas
easily
and do what is it that is necessary. You can find those safe places.
Again,
now when you tell Kenyans, very average Kenyans, go to safe
and that's
areas.
why people are dying, because even as I was speaking right now, if you go to coastal region, it is submerged. If we are late to rescue them from their homesteads to a safer ground, we still have an opportunity to do that. That if you could see areas which is flooded, government could pick those people today and tell them it's an order by the government that everybody should vacate this place. And you're taken by force to a safer place.
Ground,
Even though you were late to do that before, Mangicho, today we cannot be able to see with our own eyes. There are many areas which are flooded.
Exactly.
It's upon whether the national government or the county government or the collaboration between the two to pick those people from there by force and secure them somewhere.
Yes, and maybe also make sure that maybe these people don't leave, because we never know. Again, this is Mother Nature. You cannot really tell after how long we shall have this kind of rains again or this kind of disaster again. Yes, so I think it is very important, and instead of blame game, because again there was that kind of blame game that we also saw between the national government and also the county government, whereby the national government, I think the deputy president was actually accusing the governors of actually sleeping on their job, because he was also his point was that monies have already been disbursed in the counties, so it is upon the counties, it's upon the county governments to ensure that they put modalities into place to actually mitigate the effects of this El Nino disaster.
Yes, yesterday.
But then, according to the governors, it's like some of these monies have not actually been. They have not.
Yesterday I was checking on the weather updates, and something very new was developing. That another form of El Nino is compounding within the Somalia and Ethiopia, and this rain is going also to spill over to our northern corridor.
Yeah, to a northern corridor, sure.
You see? And as we're speaking right now, the northern corridor is experiencing a massive flood.
Sure.
And more to come.
I think at this particular point now we can get into, our director can actually help us to get the Vox Pops that was done by our reporter Vincent Kimutai on what Kenyans think about women in building and construction. We can have that particular segment. Then later on, we'll get now into the details of the interview that we had with our guest for this particular program.
Shukran sana Mangicho Mola pamoja na Paul Kagi. Na kama vile ambavyo umeweza kueleza hapo studioni, kwa miaka mingi wanawake wameonekana kujitoza katika kazi zilizodhaniwa kuwa ya wanaume. Kati ya kazi hizo ni kama kazi ya ujenzi pamoja na sekta ya uhandisi. Hii kiarifiwa ni kutokana na uhaba wa kazi ambao umekuwa ukishuhudiwa humu nchini. Hata hivyo hapa hivi leo nitakuwa nikizungumza na Wakenya kutaka kufahamu je, wazo yao ni lipi kuhusiana na hatua hiyo ya wanawake kujitoza katika kazi ambazo zilidhaniwa kuwa ni wanaume pekee.
Mimi ni fundi wa miaka zaidi ya 30 years. Na sana watu wangu wa mkono huwa natumia wa mama. Juu wazee wengi wameshindwa na jukumu ya kazi yao. Na ndio sababu unakuta wamama hata wamekuwa zaidi ya wazee, si ndio? Sasa mimi ningesema wakati huu hakuna kazi ya mwanaume ama kazi ya mama. Bora tu msaidiane kijamii. Juu wakati huu si wakati kama vile tulikuwa tunasema zamani, mimi bibi akiwa hapo ati unaenda unamletea, si ndio? Sasa wakati huu ni msaidiane, bibi na mzee msukume familia. Hiyo tu.
Si mbaya kufanya sababu ina depend na kila mtu na choice yake. Utaweza pata hiyo ndio talent yake, ama hapo anaona akiwa saa ingia hapo kwa hiyo department ya kama ni mchengo ama nini, hapo ndiye anapata pesa mzuri kuliko hii kazi nyingine ya kusema ati ni mwanamke ndiye anastahili kufanya. Kazi ya mchengo ingawa wanawake wanafanya, pati ni ngumu, si ya isaidi kwa wanawake sababu mtu anatumia nguvu mingi kusaidi, na mwanamke hiyo ni kazi ngumu kwake.
Unajua saizi hiyo world ya saizi at least naona mostly sisi wanaume si wengi sana, wengi wamekuwa walevi nini. So ukipata kuna ladies wenye wameenda hizo training, wamekuwa engineer, wakienda kwa apply job unapata hao ndio wanawekwa first priority. Juu sasa sisi mostly wanaume wengi wameonyesha kuna venye tu wamejiingisha kwa stories za starehe sana, wamesahau na kazi. So unapata ladies kwa company sao ndio unapata wame lead sana kuliko wanaume. Ndio most of the occasions hizi utapata ladies hata ndio wana drive, juu ndio saini inakaa wanajituma sana. So wanaume inafaa tujiangalie sana.
Kwa maoni yangu naona kazi watu waliumbwa wakiwa binadamu na wako na jukumu tofauti. Lakini kwa vile watu wameendelea siku ya leo, kila mtu anaweza kujaribu kufanya kazi na saa zingine mtu huwa anafaulu. Lakini kazi ikiwa ilikuwa ni ya wanaume, walikuwa wanapewa kazi hiyo kwa sababu walikuwa na nguvu wakati ule wa zamani. Lakini sasa wao wameenda kwa kazi imekuwa nyingi, na hata wakina mama wamekuja wamezoea kufanya kazi. Kwa hivyo wakifanya kazi saa zingine kulingana na maisha vile yako, unapata mama ameingia kufanya kazi ya ile inafanywa na wanaume. Na saa zingine huwa ni kwa sababu ya jukumu lake kulingana na ulezi ya watoto wake, anajitolea. Lakini hata akifanya bado huwa anachoka, maybe hata kuliko mwanaume. Lakini kazi kama ya ofisi akina mama wanaweza kufanya na wanaume wanaweza kufanya. Lakini kazi ambayo inahitaji nguvu ya mwili, naona saa zingine ni kuwafinya wakifanya hizo kazi kwa muda mrefu, kwa sababu wako na jukumu ya kulea watoto. Kwa hivyo naona si sana wataweza kazi kama ile inafanywa na wanaume. Gari wanaweza kuendesha, lakini inafika wakati kazi inakuwa ngumu kuliko ile uwezo yao. Kwa hivyo watu wote wanaweza kufanya kazi, lakini kama tukisema ni kazi mtu anafanya kwa hiari yake na bila kuchoka, wamama wafaa kukaa nyumbani ama ofisini ama administration ama kuongoza mikutano, mambo kama hayo.
Hiyo kwa mwafaka kabisa iko sawa. Ni kwa sababu hali ya uchumi especially wakati huu imekuwa ngumu sana. Kwa hivyo afadhali wajiingize na yale mambo, wapate ajira. Akiingia katika familia, mzee akileta kile ameleta, mama analeta, wanakelea kwa meza, wanasaidiana. Kwa hivyo sina pingamizi, wasome kabisa na wapate ajira.
Unajua sasa siku hizi hakuna kazi wanawake wanabagua. Hapana, siku hizi wanafanya kila kazi ile mwanaume anaweza fanya. Sababu ukienda kama ni mjengo, mwanamke ako hapo. Kazi ya kupaka rangi wanawake wako. Unaona sasa ni kama siku hizi hakuna wanawake wabagui kazi. Mimi naona ni vizuri kulingana na maisha ya saa hii, uwezi bagua kazi. Ile kazi unapata unafanya tu. Bora tu upate riziki yako.
Kuna wanaume tunafanya kazi ya saloon. Kazi ni kazi. Bora tu uwe ya kwamba utaweza hiyo kazi. Kazi ni kazi.
Tunaona hata wanawake wanaendesha magari, wanaenda mjengo, wale wanafanya kazi za wanaume. Sasa siku hizi ni kama hakuna kazi za wanaume. Kazi kipatikana mtu anafanya tu. Naambia serikali ipe vijana kazi. Juu ni kama hakuna kazi mingi. Sasa tunaona kama hii ya wazee, wamama wanafanya. Sasa ikue ya mama kando, ikue ni tofauti ya kazi, kuna kazi ya mama, kuna kazi ya wazee.
Saa hii society ni kama imechange. Ladies mimi naweza appreciate pia kwa venye wanajituma. They are doing good job. Wako independent pia. Wazidi kufanya job na being independent is a good thing.
Nasema ni kujitolea ili waweze kuchunga familia yao, waweze kulisha watoto na kufanya kazi ili wasitegemee mtu. Hiyo ndio nafikiria, wasitegemee mtu amtafutie amletee. Ndio nafikiria hiyo ndio maana wanajishughulisha kwenda kufanya kazi ya ujenzi namna hiyo. Naunga mkono mtu akijifanyia kazi yake na mikono yake, baraka zitatoka hapo. Uchumi imekuwa gari, hasa ni lazima ujitume hata wewe msaidiane.
Like for me, naweza sema hiyo ni achievement cause ukiangalia countries zingine ka Asia, ndio hizo countries vile zimeendelea hivyo, hakunaga hiyo ati mimi ni a woman so siwezifanya hivi. Unakuwaga iko so anaweza fanya kila kitu. So I think hiyo ni achievement. Kila mtu anafaa afanye iko like waendelee kuwapea opportunities, wawape chance ya kujaribu.
Ni maoni ya Wakenya hayo kuhusiana na swala la wanawake kujitoza katika kazi zilizodaniwa kuwa ni ya wanaume pekee, ambapo tumeona wengi wakisema kwamba wakati huu sio wakati wa kuchagua kazi, bali wanawake pia wanapaswa kujitoza katika ajira hizo, ikiwemo ni kazi ya ujenzi pamoja na kazi zingine ambazo zinadaniwa kuwa ni wanaume. Vilevile tumeona pia wakisema kwamba wanaume pia vilevile wamejitoza katika kazi ambazo zilidaniwa kuwa ni wanawake, kazi kama vile kurembesha wanawake, kazi ambazo tumeona pia wanaume wamekuwa wakijitoza, wakisema kuwa kutokana na uhaba mkubwa wa ajira ambao umeendelea kushuhudiwa humu nchini, ni vyema kila mmoja kutochagua kazi bali kufanya kazi anayokutana nayo ili uweze kujikimu na kukimu mahitaji ya familia yake. Nikiripotia kipindi cha Mid Morning Park, jina langu ni Vincent Kimutai.
Well appreciated there, our reporter Vincent Kimutai, of course, interacting with some of Kenyans and also getting their opinions, getting their thoughts, their perspectives on this crucial subject. Of course, we had already mentioned it to you, women in building and construction. And of course, you've had Kenyans there. Of course, they've raised some of their views and some of their thoughts regarding this particular subject. And of course, if you're also joining us, we have also put this question out there for you so that you can also interact with us on our social media pages. The question is, what challenges face women who are involved in perceived male-dominated careers? What are some of the challenges that face women who are involved in perceived male-dominated careers? You can continue giving us your thoughts on our social media pages. For Facebook, that is MBCI TV, and again for YouTube, that is MBCI TV Official, and our shortcut platform for those who are interested in these is 23814, 23814. Of course, we'll come back and also maybe discuss and also maybe try to analyze some of these perspectives that maybe Kenyans have. But before that, as we had mentioned and promised, there is an interview that we did with our guest for today, Rahab Wangoi, the director, Ultimate Home Finishes, and also an expert in matters building and construction, to also get her views, her perspectives on women in building and construction. And my director is telling me that interview is now ready. Have a look at it. Very good morning to you, and welcome to the Mid-Morning Park. Of course, you know very well this is your Wednesday Leadership Edition, where we discuss matters leadership in different sectors, that is in business, in health, in education, in agriculture. And today, we want to focus on leadership as far as women are concerned in building and construction sector. I want to find out what are some of the key issues that are very important for us to consider, for us to put into consideration, even as we look at what's happening in relation to women getting involved, participating in the building and construction sector. And maybe before we just go to the nitty-gritties of this particular discussion, just in case you are hearing some background sound during the recording of this particular episode, there was heavy downpour, but nevertheless, we are going to ensure that you enjoy this particular conversation. And of course, I have a guest that is an expert or an expertise in this particular field, and is also the director, Ultimate Home Finishes. She is Rahab Wangoi. She is going to be here to help us get into the nitty-gritties of this particular discussion and help us to know how women have actually been engaging in this particular sector. What are some of the challenges? What is the importance of encouraging our women to actually embrace this particular industry. And of course, we also want to invite your contribution. We want to make it as interactive as possible. You can catch us live on our Facebook page, that is MBCI TV. And of course, you can also give us, or you can also catch us live on our YouTube page, that is MBCI TV Official. You can give us your reflections also on our shortcut platform, that is 23814. As we continue, we'll be glad to also see what are some of your responses as far as this particular discussion is concerned. Of course, later on, we'll be joined, or we'll be going back with my co-host, that is Paul Kagi. But for now, let me introduce my guest for this particular discussion, Madam Rahab Wangoi. Karibu sana, good to have you today in this particular program.
Thank you very much, Bwana Majid.
Yes.
Yes.
And of course, looking forward to some of the insights. But maybe just to lay the foundation, when you talk about the industry, the building and construction industry, how do you maybe just give us a brief maybe analysis of the importance of this particular sector in the society in our country, Kenya?
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Now, the building industry is very key in our economy. As you can see, we are already housed from rain because of a building.
Yes.
People live in houses. People go to hospitals that are housed. Children are schooling in schools that are constructed. I mean, you cannot, people are driving on roads that have been constructed, so the building and construction industry cannot be underrated. If you look at the GDP of an economy, the gross domestic product of Kenya, the contribution of the building and the construction industry is about 6%. So when we are talking about the economy of a country, we cannot underrate the contribution by the building and construction industry. So it's a very, very, very key industry in our economy.
It's a very key industry.
Yeah.
And of course, maybe for a very long time, is an industry that maybe has been associated with the male gender as opposed to the female gender. Maybe how did we find ourselves in this scenario?
I think traditionally, there was a very serious issue about gender imbalance. So the economy had been segregated towards male-dominated courses versus female-dominated courses, such that even if you went to the universities, you would find that, for example, sciences, mathematics, and major subjects, the ones that people call difficult subjects, were mainly associated with men. And so, same with career. All the heavy careers and the complicated careers were mainly associated with the male gender. But, I mean, the situation has changed.
Is it a Kenya situation or?
No, I think it's a global issue. You know, generally we are in a patriarchal society. It's a male-dominated society. So we are trying to change that stereotype. And I don't think it is only, it is a Kenyan issue. I think it's a global issue. Women have been underrated. Women have been seen to, for example, if you go to ECD training centers, you will find that almost all ECD teachers are female. Whereas if you go to the universities, you'll find most of the professors are male. So this is something that is going to change, has been there, but it's now changing. Yeah.
So we have a lot of this particular a problem emanating maybe from our educational systems.
Well, I think it was the exposure, and there was a stereotype that also women did not really believe in themselves. And with a lot of sensitization, women have gone to school. With the equality that is being, and feminism that has been put at the front, women are now going to school and embracing even those things that we thought we couldn't do.
So we are talking about a scenario whereby it would be very, very possible for you to find that if maybe even in a school, the girl child or maybe the female gender just being told or being made to see that they don't have the capability to manage sciences and maybe these other courses that are inclined towards building and construction.
Yeah, if you look at the performance, especially of the girls, I know right now KCSE is ongoing. If you look at the results nowadays, against what used to happen, you realize girls are topping. So I think our capacity now, we already have started seeing that we are capable. Right now, I don't think there is a place where you would go and not find a woman, whether it is operating heavy machinery, whether it is being an aeronautical engineer, whether it's being pilots of the heavy commercial jets, it doesn't matter. In the military, wherever, we are all over. So the scenario is changing. It's changing.
And of course, we'll actually even come to that in detail and see how is it that maybe, what are some of the changes that we've seen as far as maybe more women actually being enabled to and being incorporated into this particular sector. But even before we look at that now, what do you maybe mention as some of the problems that we've had as a result of maybe women, especially maybe previously and maybe even to some percentage, even currently, being limited into maybe getting into this particular industry?
One of the things that we have had, you know, once you don't give equal opportunities, then you fail to see the capacity of a person. And one of the weaknesses that we have had, let me now talk about the construction sector. Right. One of the major weaknesses we have had is that we have had a lot of lack of innovation and doing things the same way. And we have also had some bit of mediocrity, and that is now where women come into play. Because women use their mind, their emotion, their energy whenever they are given a task to do. And so we do not just do things because things need to be done. We are using our mind, we are using our emotion. For a woman to gain satisfaction, they go very deep into what they are doing. And so if you look at the construction industry, for example, since we started having now women on board, you will realize that the buildings are looking smarter, houses are looking better, the designs are looking fancier. We are now competing with the global world, and that's because we are exposed. Women are also normally very open-minded, and because we are generally fashionable, God created us fashionable. We are so interested in what is happening in the outside world, what is the first world doing in their construction industry, what can we do better than others. And we are incorporating that and also training now the men that we can be able to do things differently and achieve better results. So if you walk into people's homes nowadays, people are just not building houses just so that they can live in them. They are building houses that they will be comfortable and feel very safe to live in, and feel a serious sense of belonging and a sense of peace as they live in those houses. So things are different.
Yeah, so Rahab, I know someone is watching you during this particular program, and actually we've talked about the issue of stereotype, and maybe they would want to find out from you, how was it like for you getting into this particular industry?
Not easy. You see, we are saying that this is already a male-dominated field. So generally, whatever you're trying to explain to somebody, they think your knowledge is a bit substandard in comparison to a man. So trying to convince somebody to take up your idea is not going to be easy. That is number one. There is also this stereotype that when a woman is trying to, because generally in the construction sector, you will find generally the well-abled men in the society. And so when you're trying to get in as a woman, there is this stereotype that you are a woman. So whenever they are facing you, the first thing that they see is a woman before they even listen to what you have to offer. And that normally puts us in a very precarious situation, because then you have to prove to yourself that besides any other interests, generally you are interested in being in the construction industry. As well, it is equally very demanding. So as a woman, as you bring yourself into the construction industry, this is an industry that doesn't understand hours. It doesn't understand the 8 to 5. A woman has children at home, has a husband at home, has many other things that are going on, and the building and construction industry does not understand working hours. So many times you have to work very late at night. Many times you have to, for example, if you're opening or operating a shop, sometimes you have to leave your children in bed because you have to wake up and operate the business so that people can be able to buy the materials and be able to be on site at the right time. So there are a lot of challenges for us being there as women, but because of the passion that we have and the need that we want to see our homes looking better, I don't think we are left with a choice. We still have to stick in this industry.
Yeah, and so far, what do you think are some of the mechanisms, some of the measures that maybe have been put into place by different stakeholders in this particular sector to ensure that they give a solution to this particular challenge, this stereotype, and actually help women to do well?
I grew up in the Moi era. So we can say that we were the girls that were empowered by Moi. And that was a very serious thing because the girl child had not been exposed to a lot of education. And that was the opening. Because when the girl was empowered to go to school, when you go to school, then you realize there are so many aspects and so many sectors in school. And because of that exposure, you're able to know your strengths and where you fit and and once you get the skills that go in line with where you fit, and then you have the passion to do what you're able to do, then you're able to undertake any course related to the building and construction industry. So one of the things that the government has done is to ensure that the girl child goes to school. The second thing that the current governments have put in place is that they have created a lot of institutions. I remember during my time, the building and construction courses were only being offered at the University of Nairobi, and probably, I'm not very sure about Moi University, but I do know that most of them were in the University of Nairobi. But if you look at it nowadays, there are so many universities all over the country offering the same thing. Like you don't have to get someone telling you they did architecture in the University of Nairobi. There are so many places. And we also have very many private universities that are offering these courses. And so all over, we no longer need to be limited because there are no opportunities for us to learn. And the other important thing is the TVET institutions that are training people, especially in the artisan courses. So you will find very many women who are in plumbing, find very many women who are in machine operations. You will find very many women who are even in tiling, painting. So I mean, we have no choice now. The government has put institutions that are in place to empower us to be able to do what we are doing. The other major thing that has happened is that, of course, we appreciate the fact that the government has appreciated that the gender inequality has been in place, especially during the tendering and procurement processes, and has secured 30% of the government tenders, whether it is in the building and construction or any other sector, to the women and the youth and the disabled. And so there are things that are coming into place.
And there is a point that you've talked about, the skills that are very important as far as this particular industry is concerned, and talking maybe about the fact that the government has actually come up and established quite a number of TVET institutions across the country. How is it like the process of acquiring skills and getting skills for one to actually be in a position to be well conversant in this particular industry, especially for women?
Okay. Now that we have the opportunity to go to learn, I think now the work of the women is after you have learned, then what? Because many women will learn and gain the skills, but there is still this fear that you will not be believed because of what is happening. This is a seriously male-dominated sector. So even when you're going to compete, you're competing against, for now we are saying we only have about 15% of the women in the building and construction industry. So whatever competition you're doing, you're competing against 85% of men, which is not easy. So you need a lot of, besides the skill, you need a lot of tenacity to be able to be bold enough and to fight for your place, because you have no choice. You just have to fight for your place as a woman. And the good thing is that the women who are equally empowered have also started embracing that they are also equally empowered women in the building industry. So we are also creating space for our own girls to be able to come and give us the skills that they are learning. So you'll find many institutions that have been created by women, are giving fellow women opportunities to be able to exploit their skills.
Wow, wow. And one other perception that was quite challenged maybe, we're actually talking to it as a perception, was that it requires a lot of physical people are looking at it as an industry that requires physical labor, and maybe people really thinking that this is not an area that would actually fit women but men. How do you look at this?
I think that's also another stereotype. People think that when you're in the construction industry is not just about lifting cement and stones, because that's what people think. When you say that you're in the construction industry, they think it's just about pushing wheelbarrows, but that's not it. It is very wide. There is so much. We need accountants to be able to cater for the books as we do the construction. We need architects. They are not wheelbarrow carriers, they are not stone lifters. We need project managers who are going to supervise the projects. We need engineers. We need supervisors. We still need even the handymen. But the good thing is that technology has improved greatly. Rarely will you find in any serious construction people doing very serious, heavy manual work. So that stereotype needs to change. There is no need of a woman to fear that they're going to be told to carry a bag of cement which is 50 kgs and maybe they also weigh 50 kgs. No. There are so many aspects to building a construction. You can still be a supplier of the materials of construction. There are so many. You can be a machine operator. There are very many areas.
What do you think maybe needs to be done, maybe even both at the county government level and also maybe in the national government level? Of course, we also know there is some milestones that have actually also been obtained in terms maybe of the number of female lawmakers that we are seeing, maybe senators, members of parliament, and even MCAs, the number of women that are being elected in these particular positions. What do you think can be their role in terms of actually pushing for the recognition of the female gender in this particular industry?
This year, in August, the Minister for Roads and Transport, Kipchumba Murkomen, launched a forum for women in construction. So now we have a place where we can go to discuss our issues and raise our issues. And of course, the representation, those issues can of course reach the higher arms of the government. So that is a very positive move that was undertaken. And so we are trying to build women. We want to build one another because you really need encouragement and working together in this. When it comes to the county governments and also the national government, I still have an issue again with the tendering and the procurement process because even though the 30% we have talked about is allocated to women and the youth and the disabled, we have a problem with what is actually allocated in that category. Because you will realize that it is just these simplistic tenders that are given. So you will find that a woman is allocated a tender to supply stationery, a tender for cleaning, very small things. And we want to be given the roads, we want to be given the dams, we want to be given the project that is oncoming, the affordable housing. We want to tender for those things so that our skills can also be gauged. So we feel let us have some level playing field, or even higher, because you can see we are the minority, so we need higher recognition.
And I know in a separate program we'll talk about the affordable housing, where it will give us also some content on that particular area. But when you focus on a challenge like this, do you think it can be sorted through some policies? Is it some laws that needs maybe to be entrenched so that we can look at it, or just a change of, is it just a matter of goodwill?
Goodwill can only work if there is level playing field. Currently, it's not a level playing field. So when we talk about 15% against 85%, obviously that tells you that in the tendering committee, when the decision is being made, 85% of the people who are making that decision are men. So definitely there must be laws and policies that will be passed to ensure that we are given a better playing field with men. even though we are hoping that there will be goodwill. But you can imagine if we were to work with goodwill in Parliament, how many women would we be having in Parliament today? And that's why in the current constitution, they found it necessary to have a third gender rule, because you cannot say you have a level playing field as long as you're in a male-dominated field. Yeah.
Yeah. There is something that you had highlighted, talking about this particular industry in relation to the shifting trends. I know the world is evolving every now and then, and what are some of the shifting trends that maybe you think have actually been taking place in the building and construction sector, and how impactful can they be, even as women actually come in bigger numbers to embrace?
We are happy about the artificial intelligence. We are now in the information age. There is a lot of information that we couldn't get during when we were young. With the internet, the world has become a global village. We are able to see what is happening out there, and we are able to appreciate what is happening out there and what we do not have. And so, number one, like I have told you, we are now starting to use technology in construction. We are starting to use machines in construction. So the labor force is no longer as was necessary. If it's about getting materials, we now have gained a lot of knowledge about materials and how they are done and how they are made. And we can see that now there are industries that are setting up to make those things here. And so we are going to have lots of products, different varieties, huge opportunities within us to be able to make our things and our houses and our homes and our roads and everything better. So I think information is power.
Wow, information is power.
Yeah.
I know we talked about the place of education even in ensuring that we have more women, more numbers from the female gender embracing this particular industry. So Rehab, when you look at what we are having now and the establishment of the competence-based curriculum, how far and how effective do you think this particular system can actually even help more numbers from the female gender to actually be incorporated in this field?
I don't want to sound political, but I am an employer.
Yeah.
And during our time, it was not so much to do with the grades, because personally I can do for you a stool, I can do a table, I can do many things. We used to do art and craft, we used to do music, agriculture, everything. Many of those things were practical. But then there was a generation that came after us who were not exposed to anything practical. So you see someone, for example, a very small nail needs fitting in your house, and you have to call a fundi to come and do the fitting. And that is what CBC has come to change. Because we have very many people who are highly educated, with very high grades, with a lot of education, but very little practical knowledge of how to do those things. That is why I am appreciating CBC. Because our children are being exposed to utilize their brains, their skills, their hands. From a very young age, someone is able to identify their talent and grow that talent. I am a mother myself, and I know my children are currently in that system, and I already can tell the difference between one and the other. We already can tell the direction. You can tell when someone is interested in construction, and you'll be able to grow them so that they are going to be very good in what they are learning in school. So what the government is doing is actually very important. I wish everybody can embrace CBC.
Well, that's very interesting. And for someone watching you and they're encouraged, they want to get into this particular industry, what are some of the very, very major advice that you want to give them?
I would like to talk to women. Because I must be an advocate for women,
exactly.
Especially as we're talking about women in construction. The biggest predicament we have with women is fear. And the fear of the unknown makes people pull back. that is what makes many women fear this industry. The second thing is that you're having that fear, but without knowledge. Because once you get exposed to the knowledge of this industry, it is such an interesting industry. I don't think anybody who is in this sector would want to move back to any other sector because it is so dynamic. Every day you are dealing with seriously dynamic issues, dynamic individuals, dynamic houses, dynamic projects. Your brain is being utilized. I mean, it's a very interesting industry to be in. And the other thing is, I think we ought to learn from the Bible because God himself, when he realized that it was not good for Adam to be alone, he never created a co-Adam. He created Eve for Adam. And he said she will be a helper. That means that we have an equal capacity to be able to support the men in this industry, purely given by God. Our brains are functioning well. Our hands are still true. We can be able to function. So I would like to encourage every woman, don't just sit there and observe men dominate an industry where we already have been given a field to join in. Come and join us and let us make our homes better. Let us make our economy grow. Let us make our people happy in this industry.
Absolutely awesome. And I know I had introduced you as a director at Smart Home Finishes. Maybe briefly, what do you mean when you talk about Smart Home Finishes?
Yes, Smart Home Finishes is an institution that deals with home finishes. So we are suppliers of building materials, but generally we specialize in the finishes. So we are doing paints, we are doing ceilings, we are doing tiles, we are doing toilets, and the like. So if you're in construction, especially in the Nakuru County, our branches are all over. Please feel free to come and visit our branches, and you will get very modern, quality and affordable home finishes.
Wow. Rahab Wangoi, Director at Smart Home Finishes, and also an expertise in the building and construction sector. We appreciate your time tonight, or rather this particular morning, on this very, very fundamental subject. And I hope our viewer there, a woman there has watched it and they have been encouraged, and they are ready to also get into this particular sector. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and of course, that was our discussion with Rahab Wangoi. Let's meet on the other side of this particular conversation on the mid-morning pack together with my colleague, Paul Kagi. Yeah, and of course, this is the other side.
Yes.
Yeah, that is the interview, of course, with Rahab Wangoi, talking about women in building and construction, just as we had promised. And Kagi, of course, you've heard her, and how important it is. Of course, you know, there was that perception that maybe this particular field, and of course there are quite a number of other fields that maybe for some time, it's not necessarily a Kenyan phenomenon, but it is something that maybe has really been there even globally, that maybe when it comes to this field, when it comes to this area of career, it's for men.
Dominated.
Yeah, and maybe it has,
yes, I like her confidence when she is advocating for the rights of women to be able to be given a fair playing ground when it comes to the construction industry. And she reminded me of the other day I went to a certain TVET college, and I found several girls or ladies in building construction.
Wow.
And they were doing some masonry work and very confident. You know, there's some days when if you are doing some informal training, you could not have that confidence. You could do it like a secret. You want anybody to know whether you are doing construction, masonry, carpentry, you know. You train hiding yourself.
Exactly.
Even within the institution, you don't declare the course that you are trained in. Or maybe you are a woman, you are being trained to become an electrician, a mason, carpentry.
It's like you're doing something that is very awkward.
Yes, it was there. But you see, I saw those ladies, they were they were building a certain structure openly with confidence, and I can say, wow, this is beautiful. Wow, we have really transformed.
Sure.
That even women can come up in our construction industry, train, as she said, in the TVET institutions on a way to be able to go into this industry.
Exactly.
If you have moved around, you can see many women even going to the construction sites. The only challenge which she has mentioned is that some of these jobs that we are inviting our women to join, they need a lot of masculinity. And we know most of our women are not masculine. But I was shocked to see another day women carrying stones to a story building. It's very encouraging. You see, we don't have jobs around, but we can offer them some jobs.
Exactly.
And therefore, I think it's a good thing that we should embrace that those women who are coming into construction industry, either as Jua Kali artisans or as employers, we embrace them.
We embrace them, sure. And actually, just on that point, she's also mentioned that first, we know, just as the world is evolving, we also have shifting trends in different fields, in different sectors. Even in the building and construction, we also have shifting trends where now maybe most of these women who would not maybe have undertaken quite a number of these duties or these assignments in this particular sector, because of the emergence of technology, it's now very, very easy for them to be engaged in some of these assignments, in some of these issues. But one other area that she also talked about, Kagi, and it's very important, is the place of CBC.
Right.
Whereby now these women can actually even now begin to realize, they can begin now to recognize some of their skills, some of their abilities at that very, very formative stage in their life, when they are maybe in the primary foundation. So that will help them so much, and therefore now the ability or the capacity to break this particular stereotype that maybe has affected us as a society for a very long time.
And he has mentioned that there are several predicaments with many women. Number one was the fear, what she called the fear of unknown, that you fear to enter into construction industry, number one, because you have that belief or notion that it's a male-dominated field, which could be, but you fear to go and compete with other men. For example, if you shift a little bit, Mangicho, there are many women who are in politics today. You know, politics is male-dominated field. But those women who have come out boldly and to contest with men, they are making it. The same thing. We want to see many women coming up. If you have some resources, come and register your construction company.
Just what you're saying, it's actually like the fear of the unknown. That the people who are actually in this particular field, they are only men. The people who are doing this, or the people who can only manage this, are only men. Only for you to realize, as a woman, I've also ventured into this particular field. I can also make it. I'm actually making it. And even some of them have actually even maybe proved to be much, much competent and much effective than their male counterparts. Okay, but I think it is good for us to be dynamic. I think it's good for the society to be flexible. Let us all give ourselves the space that we require, and that will also even help. And now you can imagine the number of women when they continue coming up in those great numbers in this particular industry. It also does very well for the economy because of now breaking some of these barriers that only a few men maybe can be in this particular maybe field.
Another predicament is the issue of lack of exposure. You find there are many women who are very capable of doing something in construction in the industry, but because they are not exposed, they cannot try something. You know, to be exposed is you start, if you have an interest in construction, you start attending some construction sites to see how people are doing. If you see a woman who is in construction industry, go and follow up what she is doing, whether on a low level, on a middle level, or high level, just to go and follow up what they are doing, how they do it. Is it competitive? How do men handle you in the construction site? All those things. I have seen many women who are architects today. You see, the first stage of construction is architecture. And there are many women who are thriving well in this area.
Exactly.
Right?
Wow.
So exposure is very, very key.
Exposure is very important. Yeah. And maybe Kagi, just maybe some measures that maybe need to be put into place. Of course, she's mentioned that there are still challenges when it comes maybe for women lobbying for some of these tenders, both from maybe the national government and the county government.
Yes.
It's like the female gender is being overlooked in relation maybe to the male gender, and I think that is something that really needs to be dealt with, so that we really don't have this kind of discrimination that may really affect women who want to venture and actually make it in this particular field.
And she has singled out the issue of the affordable housing program, whereby she has really advocated for many women to come up and maybe apply for tenders in this construction. To be able to give them a platform to grow, right?
It's actually one of the fields. You can remember even during the era of COVID-19, the building and construction sector was actually one of those fields that was actually being rated as one of the fields that did very well, despite that particular challenge. So there is need maybe for more investment. There is need maybe for more resources to be put into place, even when you're talking about, and it can actually be very good if the government's housing plan can actually be done in a prudent manner. The laws can actually be followed. We want to believe that this can actually be an area that can really help and bring so many people on board, create job opportunities, and actually benefit a great number of Kenyans.
And even if you are a mother, you have a daughter who has a passion to do any construction course, be it the masonry, be it electrical, civil engineering, all of them, it's good to encourage them to do them and look for a very, very competitive TVET institution whereby they can be able to train. We are lucky, maybe the government has rolled up a program called CBET, which main aim is to change the curriculum for the TVET institutions from more of theoretical training to practical skill-based training. I feel it is the same as the CBC program now, which is being brought in our TVET institutions. Whereby, if you take your daughter there and she is willing and she is where her passion is, let us support them. Yeah.
That would be good. Kagi, our time is far much spent, but we really want to appreciate you, our dear viewer, for making time to be with us, for following us on this particular program, and also maybe for your participation and your making it as interactive as possible. We'll do it again next week. You can be sure to have another very, very rigorous program that, of course, will also help you to be in a position to maybe also know what is it that is happening across the country in relation to so many things. Thank you so much even for your feedback on 23814 and also on our social media pages, that is Facebook and also YouTube. My name is Mangicho Mola. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.
Yes, and thank you for finding time to be able to follow us until Friday, same time for Many Matters Friday. We'll be here talking about what makes a man, part 2. Paul Kagi is my name. Have a good day.